Thomas G. Doty was an American mass murderer responsible for the bombing and subsequent crash of Continental Airlines Flight 11 in Unionville, Missouri on May 22, 1962. Thomas Doty was born on April 17, 1928 in San Antonio, Texas. In 1962, Doty was married with a 5-year-old daughter. Doty was arrested for armed robbery not long before the night in question. He was scheduled to face a preliminary hearing. On the evening of May 22, 1962, Thomas Doty made his way to the gate of Flight 11. He arrived at the gate after the doors had been closed. Airline policy states that once the doors are closed, they are not to be reopened. However, for an unknown reason, the doors were reopened, and Doty was allowed to board Flight 11. Continental Airlines Flight 11 was a Boeing 707 registered as N70775. Flight 11 departed Chicago O'Hare International Airport at 8:35 p.m. on May 22, 1962. Its original flight plan was from O'Hare Airport in Chicago, Illinois, to Kansas City, Missouri. It was reported that the flight was a routine flight until just before the aircraft reached the Mississippi River. The pilot opted to deviate from the flight plan to avoid thunderstorms and turn to the north. Near Centerville, Iowa, the aircraft disappeared from the scope of the Waverly, Iowa flight following service. 42 minutes after its takeoff, there was an explosion in the right rear lavatory at 9:17 p.m. This explosion resulted in the separation of the tail section from the fuselage. The cabin immediately decompressed. The flight crew began emergency descent procedures and put on their smoke masks due to a dense fog that had formed in the cabin. As soon as the tail section was blown off the fuselage, the aircraft pitched nose down violently. This sudden downward pitch caused the engines to tear off. With the loss of the tail and engines, the plane began to gyrate uncontrollably. The Boeing 707 lost 38 feet of the rear section of the aircraft. It had part of its left wing and most of its right wing intact. Near Flight 11, a B-47 Stratojet bomber flying out of Forbes Air Force Base in Topeka, Kansas, was flying at an altitude of 26,500 feet in the vicinity of Kirksville, Missouri. It was reported that the commander of the B-47 saw a bright flash in the sky in front of and above his aircraft. His navigation logs show that he estimated the flash to have occurred at 9:22 p.m. What was left of Flight 11 crashed into an alfalfa field near Unionville, Missouri. Witnesses in and around both Cincinnati and Iowa and Unionville reported hearing loud noises around 9:20 p.m. 2 other witnesses reported to say that they saw a big flash and a ball of fire in the sky. Most of the wreckage of the fuselage was found near Unionville. However, the engines, parts of the tail section, and left wing were found up to 6 miles away from the wreckage of the fuselage. Flight 11 had 45 souls on board. 44 were dead when rescuers reached the crash site. The lone survivor was a 27-year-old man from Evanston, Illinois. Rescuers found him in the wreckage, and he was taken to St. Joseph Mercy Hospital in Centerville, Iowa. He later died of internal injuries an hour and a half after being rescued. 36 passengers, 8 crew members, and Doty were all killed in the explosion and subsequent crash of Flight 11. During the FBI's investigation, it was discovered that Doty had purchased life insurance policies from Mutual of Omaha for $150,000, which was the maximum available. This is equivalent to $1 million now. He had also purchased an additional $150,000 policy at the airport with death benefits. At the time, insurance was able to be purchased in the airport. His wife and daughter were the sole beneficiaries. It was determined that Doty had purchased 6 sticks of dynamite for 29 cents each shortly before the night of May 22, 1962. They were able to pinpoint the origin of the explosion on the aircraft to be a used towel bin of the right rear lavatory. Doty got up 46 minutes into the flight, made his way to the lavatory with his briefcase, and blew himself up. It was determined that his motive was that his wife and daughter would collect on the $300,000 of life insurance. After the crash, his widow attempted to collect the insurance money. However, Doty's death was ruled suicide, which rendered the policy void. Doty's widow was only able to get a $3 refund, which is about $20 today. She passed away in 2008 at the age of 81, never talking publicly about the bombing. Continental Airlines erected a memorial for Flight 11 near the crash site in Unionville, Missouri, in July of 2010. In May of 2012, a 50th anniversary memorial service was held in Unionville. This is for informational purposes only. The people responsible and their actions should in no way be glorified. There are monsters among us. We must learn from our past and be preemptive. Regardless of motive, violence should always be a last resort as a method for inducing or provoking social change. Actions that lead to the taking of lives of innocent people are simply not justified.